Hello everybody and welcome back to In the Meadow with Kiki. I am so happy to be here and I'm so happy you're here and welcome to another episode. I am so excited as always to sit down with you guys today, specifically because I have taken an impromptu 2-week break since the holidays. I wasn't meaning to, honestly. Thanksgiving just came around and it was a really chaotic and beautiful week that I wanted to be present with my family, and it just didn't feel right at the time. And then the next week I had plans to record, but then Thursday came around and I was feeling a little bit rushed and pressured, and I was like, you know what? I've been going at this for a year and a half and have literally not missed a week since I started. I've been late, but I haven't missed one. And so I was like, I can give myself a little bit of a holiday break to reset, to restore. Lots of big things have been happening. That's another part of the reason why I took a little bit of a pause, was because I have officially moved to Los Angeles. That's been one of the big changes that I've been kind of briefly mentioning on the podcast recently. But yeah, it's here. It's happened. And so right now I'm back home at the property for the weekend to spend time with my family and hang out and grab more things for my move to LA. But as of now, I officially have my home base in Los Angeles, which is so huge. It's been a long time coming. I lived in LA for many years, and the pandemic is what brought me to this beautiful property, this olive orchard that I live on now, or now I still live here. It's still my home, but it's not my home base anymore. But it had been my home base since the pandemic began. So yeah, I don't know how many times I've told the story, but I guess I'll just briefly mention it again, where that was its own really magical time in my life. I remember before then, it was like before 2020. It was like 2017 to 2020. I was living in LA, and all I prayed for was to be able to have a slice of nature that I could call my own. Not even call my own, but to live in. All my dream boards had orchards and rivers and olive trees and just presence in nature, and just I felt so disconnected from it, and I never imagined how it was going to come to be. And then I manifested this and it was a really, really magical experience, because I was living in LA, lockdown happened. My family had bought this property in 2019, like December, so it's brand new. Completely raw. There was only running water. There's no power, no fencing, no nothing. It was just raw, high desert, tree, orchard land. And I moved here with a bell tent. I bought a $1,200 bell tent, one of those big, you'll know the kind, the yurt type looking kind of tents. And I put it up here, and I spent the first 6 months living here completely alone in nature, falling in love with my now partner, who was my boyfriend at the time, but it was the first year of us falling in love together during the midst of the most chaotic time of our lives, I feel like, the pandemic. And that's where the meadow was born. Like, Kiki's Meadow was truly born under these olive trees. Number one being because it was so hot in the summer that I couldn't stay in the tent past 8 a.m. So I would have to just have my little meadows. Like, I would go from tree to tree, finding shade to stay under. I had a river nearby. My dream boards were just completely manifested into reality. And so it's been a magical couple years. But I've been very ready to come back into the city to be able to, just connect and live in that kind of energy and lifestyle. And like LA, I know a lot of people have a lot of mixed opinions about Los Angeles, but I had such a hard time when I first moved there, and it took me many years to find my footing and find my people. But now I have the most incredible community, the most amazing experiences I'm a part of, and my friends there. And it is such a special, creative, magical, and unique city, and I am so in love with it. And so I'm so excited to be back. All that being said, I think a huge lesson that I've mentioned briefly the last couple episodes have been just how important it is to just be where your feet are at and be so fucking present and so grateful for where you're at right now, what you have, even if it's not 100% desirable and it's not exactly where you want to be. We're always on to the next thing that we want to experience, right? We're always on to the next experience, the next adventure, the next job, the next living situation. And no matter how much we've prayed to be where we are today, So sorry, I just took a break because a loud ass plane just flew over, so I'm gonna try to get back to where we were. But what I was saying is that, yeah, the biggest lesson I've learned is just to stay where your feet are and be present for where you're living in and what you're experiencing right now, because we're living in what are going to be the best years of our life looking backwards when we're older. It's like for me in my 20s, so much of my 20s have been, confusing, and I've been learning and growing and evolving, and so much of it has been spent like waiting to get to the next chapter, waiting to get to the next experience, the next living situation. And now, especially this last year, I think I spent a lot of this year really working towards moving to LA and feeling safe and stable into doing that. And suddenly it all happened so fast, and like my boyfriend got a new job, and like we're suddenly like getting a place and now we're there. And I remember I officially moved on the 1st, so it's been 7 days since officially living there. But on the 1st, after the holidays, after Thanksgiving, I remember just sitting here in my little corner of the property and just feeling so just overwhelmed with emotion and gratitude and like nostalgia for what this place has given me. And almost a little bit of sadness too for so many of the days that I didn't feel very present in it. And I do have to be more compassionate with myself, because I feel like I am the kind of person who's very, very aggressively present and really tries to take advantage of it. But it's just funny how you don't know what you have until it's gone, and now that I am, moving out, and I have moved out, my little trips here to the property are just that much more rich and full of like me pushing myself to do the damn thing. Like this weekend, me and my family, my sister, my mom specifically, we have been doing all of the creations. We were crocheting, we were baking, making crackers, making little gelatin gummies. We just made some fruit leather roll-ups. We had all this list of things that we've been wanting to do all year that we just never found the time for. And it's so funny that it's like, I was here for 365 days, obviously not the whole time, but like the point is I was here for a whole year, and suddenly we get more done in one weekend with intentionality and presence. So yeah, that's my life update. And I've just been reveling in it. It's so exciting. My dreams are all just actualizing and crystallizing in front of my eyes, and it feels so grounded. It feels so, so grounded and so real, because this is what I asked for. So much of manifestation and the art of visualization is that we normalize what we desire before we get there, so that our nervous systems can feel regulated and safe, so that we can let it in and that we can receive it. So much of this work is about feeling safe. And it sounds so silly. It sounds so weird that that's actually such a huge part of it. But in reality, it's what it is. Like visualization, I think one of the biggest parts of it is that it opens up your comfort zone to allow in what you desire. And I think that a lot of the times when we're in this fight or flight stress response, we don't have the capacity, number one, to create, to use our imagination, to use our creativity, but we also are repelling what we desire away from us. Like not consciously, but subconsciously, when we don't feel safe, when we don't feel worthy, when we don't feel good enough, when we don't feel like it's possible for us, when it feels too big to be true, we will self-sabotage. We will push things away. And I think that so much of this is just about finding your own safety within yourself, your own little oasis within your heart, within your soul, that can be that safe space that can take you wherever you go. And yeah, I think that the fun part of it is the visualization and the imagining and like thinking about the best case scenario and really visualizing yourself there. But then the more day to day, grounded, practical, I think, methods to kind of continuously keep growing and opening yourself up more to receive is by just regulating your damn nervous system, by breathing, by doing things more calmly, by just doing things slowly. I think I've been watching some videos online that are so funny about how like one of the simplest ways to regulate your nervous system is to just slow down. Like notice yourself like when you're like washing the dishes like super fast and like your shoulders are all clenched up and like your mouth is clenched and you're just thinking about a million things. Just catch yourself and be like, girl, I can relax. Like I can do this slowly. I can still get it done. I'm not being lazy, but I can get it done. And same with like, I get very frazzled. Like when I'm packing or getting ready to do things, I like to intentionally give myself like extra time to do things like cleaning or packing. Those are little tricks that you can gift yourself by like, okay, rather than trying to pack like an hour before I have to leave, like what if I just do it the day before when I don't have anything to do on a Sunday, and I can put good music on and I can listen to a good podcast and I can like organize while I do it and clean up and write little ideas on my phone and have fun with it. I think that we live in a society that's just so like hustle, productivity oriented, where we're just go, 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 like get things done as fast as we can, as quickly. But in reality, I think that realizing that we get to do it slowly and in the same breath, show the fuck up. You know, as I said in the last couple episodes, like this work is the work of contradictions and opposing thought, where you have to be able to be comfortable with holding both in order to use the magic of manifestation and alchemy to create the life that you want to live. You know, it's that balance of not needing it, not needing your dreams to come in tomorrow, and not needing these external factors to make you feel whole, and finding that within yourself right now, within the most simplest, smallest, mundane magic that we have in front of us at all times, like taking a slower walk, drinking our tea, splurging on the nicer, milk at the store so that your coffee tastes extra creamy, and find ways to find the feelings that we want right here and right now. And asking ourselves, like, well, what if we did have to do this slowly? Like, what if we got to take our time? And what if within that safety, that feeling of safety and that feeling of a regulated nervous system and that feeling of detachment where I don't need it right now, I don't need it, period. It would be beautiful. It'd be amazing if I had it. It would make life even that much more magical and delicious. But as it is right now is really fucking good. And I'm good. And taking that energy and then pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, stretching yourself in a way that you wouldn't if you were just mindlessly moving through life, pushing yourself, but doing it with a regulated and safe nervous system. But don't get me wrong, you got to show up. You got to show the fuck up. This recording right now, me sitting down to record this podcast took so much out of me. Momentum is so huge. Momentum, momentum, momentum. I saw this quote the other day that I can't, I'm gonna, here, actually, let me find it really quickly. Okay, I found it. The quote is by this person on, I think that's Twitter, X or whatever, Rafael Salaha, I think is the name. Consistency is not about doing the same thing every day. It's about showing up with the same intention. It's a devotion to the process, trusting that the results will align in time. People make it out to be rigid discipline, but it's really about finding a rhythm that feels true and sustainable to you. I think that once you find that rhythm, effort fades into ease and the process carries itself. So it's about having that balance where you're not forcing and pushing and struggling and out of this fear of like, okay, well, if I don't prove myself worthy, if I don't show up so intensely for what I want, then I'm going to die. And I know obviously you don't actually consciously think that you're physically going to die, but our nervous systems, our primal like reptile brain that's evolved thousands of years ago, it thinks that means death. And that's why we get so agitated and so dysregulated and so scared. And then also social media doesn't help either. When you're looking at yourself and comparing yourself to millions of people on the internet, obviously we're always going to think that we're doing something wrong, whether it's with our diet or our food, the way that we exercise, our career choices, our scrolling, like all of these things that make us make our brains explode. And so I think that for me, one of the most important things that has helped me stay in alignment, stay on track, stay connected is finding pockets of peace and pockets of stillness, even if you have to force yourself to. I have a habit of, especially even on this ranch, on the property that I live on, I have like a good little walk to get to our like communal outdoor kitchen that we all share. And I always catch myself just grabbing my phone to look mindlessly on my phone while I walk there. And I've been just like, what am I doing? Like, this is, especially here in nature, there's olive trees ahead on top of me. There's, the fall leaves are falling in the most beautiful way. And what am I doing on my phone? When you boil your water for your coffee, just taking a deep, beautiful breath and remind yourself how you want to feel, And so when it comes to the devotion of our work and of our dreams, it's, again, that balance. I know I repeat myself, but I think that's the only way that we learn is through repetition and drilling in these ideas again and again and again, because you can never hear them enough. It's being able to be slow and have stillness, but be in devotion to what you want to create. Me right now showing up and recording this podcast after being away for 2 weeks was really hard. I only have 2 days here at the property. I was doing so many million different things, and all I wanted to do was just push it off another week when I remembered that this is it. This is what I want to do with my life. This is the devotion that I have for the life that I want to create and the way that I want to show up and the discipline that I'm setting for myself for who I want to be. And it's always going to be easier not to. Like, no duh. It's always going to be easier for me to just curl up and not set up my camera and put on clothes and make my hair and sit down to record, find the right lighting. Like, obviously, it's always going to be easier to just sit in bed, to scroll on my phone, or even do other things that aren't as, like, unhealthy. But it's always going to be easier not to show up. And so you have to make a commitment to show the fuck up. And whenever you show the fuck up, when you actually sit down to write out your script or to record the video, to work on the writing, to work on the project, I promise you, it begins to get easier. And then you get back into the flow. And when you are able to show up consistently in the way that feels right for you, a devotion to your work, your creativity, and the things that you want to bring out to the world, you build a momentum that carries itself. Today, me getting to record the podcast felt like I was carrying a massive boulder up a mountain. But now that I'm up here on the top of the mountain, the boulder kind of rolls itself down. And so, even just like I had a thought where I was like, well, what am I going to talk about in the podcast? And then I actually just chose to sit down to talk to myself, to write down and journal. And so much poured through me that I have to save half of it for the next podcast. So yeah, I think an analogy that I read in a book recently that I'm going to talk more about later on, but it's such a deep one, I'm not even going to get into it. But an analogy is about floating down the river, right? You must have heard it before, whether on this podcast or another podcast, but we are here to flow down the river of our dreams. Now, there's 2 different kinds of boats, all right? 2 different kinds of people in the world. Sorry, there's 3. There's two extremes, and we want to be in the middle. The 2 extremes are the people who just fly down the river with their parasailer and let the wind carry them without any direction. They're just floating around like a leaf with no intention. They're being dragged this way and the other way into all of these other directions that their parents are telling them to go, their culture, their society, their school. There's no intention. So the world and the river just carries it to wherever it wants to go randomly, and there's nothing behind it, right? Those are people who are not putting work into what they want to create. They're not showing up. They're not consciously deciding what they want to create for themselves, and they're just floating. Now, the other extreme is people who are so rigid and so intense and so steadfast into getting where they want to go, where they think they need to go, where they think they're supposed to go, where the river's trying to take them one way, but they're trying to row into the other way, and they're rowing against the current, and it's taking literally every ounce of energy from them to the point where they are getting completely burnt out, completely depleted, completely just their emotion and life sucked out of them because they're trying so hard with gripped hands on the fucking rower to try to get to where they want to go. So we don't want to be on either end of these places. We want to be in the middle where we're just flowing down the river. We see where the river wants to take us. And so we row gently towards where our intuition and our heart is guiding us to. And then there's a roadblock. Maybe there's a bunch of trees on one side of the river. And so rather than trying to just force yourself through those branches, you let the river carry you and follow it to where it wants to take you. I really love that analogy because it shows that it's like you're still rowing. You're still being intentional. You're still choosing where you want to go. You're not letting the wind just take you off to sea and without any direction and just getting lost. You're choosing where you want to go, but you're doing it through the current and letting the stream take you with it. So chew on that analogy. And I think that's kind of, how you can balance those contradictions. And obviously, this cannot be said enough, but letting go of perfectionism. Even again, for me as an example with this podcast, I am a cinematographer through and through. I love cameras. I love lighting. And I will often not record because the lighting's not good enough. And for me, I value that. I think that's a big part of my brand. I love it to look really beautiful, but sometimes the lighting's just not going to be good. And I got to record anyways, you know? And so that's something I'm going to be really challenging myself to do, where it's like some podcasts are going to be like a piece of art, a frame from a movie, and some of them are going to be in a living room at night, and there might be a candle, and that's okay too. And so the only way that we're not going to move forward at all is if we just stay frozen and don't take any action. You know, if you're still thinking about your color palette, and I'm speaking to myself for whatever you want to create, get out of your own way and just choose it, because you can change it later. You're never going to evolve, you're never going to grow if you don't just start moving. And no one's asking for perfection, especially when it comes to, you know, showing up online. Like, you got to let that go, because sometimes you're going to put your whole heart into a video that's going to flop because the algorithm isn't letting it get a reach. And so the only way that you're actually going to have a long-standing, sustainable growth and reach is if you just keep showing up and you keep practicing. I know there was this study or practice done at a high school or a college, I think, where there was a photography class, and the teacher did an experiment where she split the class into two people. Half the class, their assignment was take the best photo that you can, and that's going to be your final. And then the other half said, take 300 photos this year and show us, you know, and actually that was it. Like, just take 300 photos. And the side that took the 300 photos, their last photo that they decided to bring in was incredible, because they learned so much. They practiced lighting, they practiced framing, they practiced their aperture, they practiced how to guide their model. Whereas the person who tried to perfect this one photo didn't have any experience that actually would have brought them to where they wanted to go. And that's so contradictory, because you think that trying to perfect one thing is what's going to make you create good work. And that's not it. You just got to keep fucking creating and keep showing up. And the theme of this episode, honestly, like the title that I want to make it, is to get out of your self-centeredness. Get out of your own little self-centered world where you think, when you're only thinking about yourself, when you're only thinking about, who am I? I'm not good enough. Who am I to create this? Who am I to share this? What am I doing? Like, why me? Get out of your self-centeredness. Get out of your own little world. Get out of your own way so that you can serve the world. The world needs your gifts. The world needs you to show up in your authenticity. Your people, no matter who they are, where they are in the world, are out there, and they're waiting for you to show up and getting out of your own way. It's so crazy how we think that we're so individual. We think we're such little independent beings on this earth, and that could not be farther from the truth. We are all one, and we are all so connected. We are all a little piece of the whole, and we are put on this earth to share our own unique gifts that only we have. It doesn't matter how many other million people are in your same field or in your same work of art. There's only one you, and there's only one version of you that can bring out your gifts and share your art and your creations with the world the way that you can. And so get out of the comparison mode of looking at how other people are doing it and trying to judge yourself or shape your own creations to fit the mold that others expect of you. You just got to show up. And I think that now, as we come into 2025, there's a lot of things to think about. And a way to take confrontational action against yourself, post the goddamn website even before it's ready. Post the video, at maybe the third final revision. It doesn't have to be the 50th revision. And so that's something that I want all of us to really think about, where it's like, we need to show up. It's our duty in the world. It's not selfish. It is the most selfish thing not to. And so yeah, that's something to chew on, because I think that way of framing it really helps me, where it's like, damn, you're right. It's actually more selfish to not share our gifts with the world. Whereas a lot of times we think that we think it's selfish to focus on ourselves and try to put a spotlight on our creations and whatnot. And so, yeah, I definitely want that to be a theme of something to chew on, to think about as we get into the end of this next year, or the end of this year and into the new year. So another topic I want to talk about is quantum shifts, baby. Quantum leaping, timeline jumping, and shifting into the reality that we want to live in in 2025. I think that it's so hard to wrap your mind around what that actually means and how quickly your entire life can shift when, number one, you look at the inner world of what you think that you're worthy of, what you think that you deserve, what you think that you're capable of, what you believe is possible for you, and the way that you can open your eyes to the infinite possibilities that are in front of you always. The infinite potential, the field of possibility of the infinite ways that everything can play out, and that you get to dance and move and flow with the universe and open yourself up to receive those different timelines and those possibilities. Another analogy that I read in a book the other day is about the yellow door versus the red door. So we look at life, and I might not be getting this exactly the same way that the author did, but I'll do my best, and regardless, it's still going to be very impactful with the idea in itself. But we spend our lives looking for the red door to figure out how to open it to the life of our dreams. And we bang on that door, and we try to get a screwdriver to like squeeze it open. We try so hard, and we knock and we knock and we knock, and it just doesn't budge. Day after day, year after year, we're just slamming on the door, trying to get someone to open it, period, trying to like pick the lock, and it just doesn't open. And it feels like no matter what we do, it's never gonna fucking open. Now, this analogy is that the moment that you just take a breath, detach a little bit, see clearer, you can shift just the slightest degree, barely anything, to the right or to the left, and suddenly your perspective begins to widen, and in the corner of your eye, you see a yellow door. Now, all your life, you've been banging against this red door. You've been trying so hard, and you've practically given up, and you don't believe it's possible anymore. It's like there's no way that this door is going to ever fucking open. But then suddenly, when you give yourself the spaciousness and the stillness and the moment to just take a breath and open and widen your perspective a little bit, suddenly this new yellow door opens in the frame, in your visual frame. And you walk over the yellow door, and it opens wide open. Just whoop into a part of your reality, a way of your reality that you did not even imagine possible. And there's many yellow doors that we've had in our lives. Think about your life and these synchronicities that have brought you to where you are today that you never could have planned, that, opened up for you. And when we are able to tap into this juicy, magnetic, loving, open, peaceful, and present energy right here, right now, as life as it is, moving out of survival, fight or flight, into a regulated nervous system, feeling at peace, calm, and in love with yourself, in love with life, feeling worthy, feeling courageous, suddenly you begin to magnetize the people, the places, the things, the ideas, the experiences that change everything. And it happens with the slightest shift within you. Another analogy is thinking about like a plane. Like when you're flying from point A to point B on a plane, say the plane's going forward. The plane only has to shift like 1 or 3 degrees to take it to the other side of the world. You don't need to have this crazy undertaking of your entire life to see shifts. It's like if you want to completely change your life, if you want to feel healthier and change your diet and move to a different city, like, yeah, of course you can do all of that. And if you're feeling called to do it, then fuck yeah. But it doesn't need to be that dramatic to have these massive life-changing shifts to change everything. These tiny little micro adjustments and micro shifts and micro widening of a perspective changes everything. And so here we are trying for so long, banging against this red door, realizing the yellow door is there all along. We just can't see it because our attention and our focus is only at that red door. It's so narrow. Our perception and our focus is so fucking narrow where it's like, it makes sense. It's like we can only focus on so many things at a time. And that's where this magic power of, subconscious reprogramming and the art of manifestation is that we get to rewire that perspective. Speaking of, I'm just so excited. I need to mention that Unlock Your Dream Reality, my signature mini course, is launching very soon. If you want to get onto the waitlist below, definitely do. So you'll get the first access and discounts. And But yeah, like I'm just so excited because we talk so much about that. We dive really, really deeply into, yeah, how to open your narrow perspective to recognize and be open to all of the magic and the synchronicities and the miracles that life has to offer us, always. And so those are when the quantum shifts and the timelines change. um, and, going back to also my very grounded perspective of timelines, where it's like, what timeline do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the timeline where you're eating like shit and you're not working out and you're not working on your business, you're not putting yourself out there, and a year passes and you're in the same exact place as you were last year? Or do you want to be in the timeline where you're taking care of yourself, you're feeling vital, you're feeling energized, you're feeling excited, you're feeling connected, you're working on your projects, you're putting yourself out of your comfort zone, you're reaching out to the person, you're saying hi to people that you would have been scared of saying hi to before. Those are two very different timelines, and we get to be conscious and choose which timeline that we want to be living on. And so as we are heading close to 2025, I cannot believe that it's already December. Oh my goodness, it's so exciting. It feels like such a year. And I love the energy of this time of year, where, yeah, we really get to refocus our energy, redirect the things that we want to create for ourselves, the way that we want to show up. And so the last thing I'll end on today is our mental diet, our energetic hygiene. The same way that we brush our teeth in the morning, the same way that we brush our hair and we take a shower, we need to have a consistency of energetic hygiene to take care of our inner well-being. What are you feeding your brain? Number one, with like, what's the media that you're consuming? What podcasts are you listening to? If you're listening to the Kiki's Meadow, I feel like you're doing pretty good on that part. But what are you looking on social media? And that's the external things. But then the second part is, what are you feeding yourself? Like, what are the thoughts that are going on in your mind most often? We have to remember that we have cognitive bias, which means that a lot of the times we are only going to be seeking out the negativity, and that's just human. We're most likely going to be repeating the same negative thoughts and same negative patterns in our head again and again and again. Once we rewire them and change our neural pathways, it gets a lot different. But no matter how hard you work on it, they will still come up. It's a survival mechanism. It's still the primal brain is always going to bring up the negativity to keep you safe. It's always going to bring up your insecurities, who are you to do this? Like, you have to just be able to expect it, not necessarily in the way that you're like, manifesting it and trying to bring it into your life, but you have to be able to know that it's going to show up so that it doesn't throw you off. And having a practice of stillness and spaciousness for you to become the awareness of those thoughts is how you're actually going to create sustainable, long-lasting growth and change in your own life. And witnessing it, being the witness, and having that awareness of self-inquiry of like, where are these thoughts coming from? So many times those thoughts are not your own. They're coming from another story, from your family, from generational trauma, from your own trauma as a child, the way that you were taught life worked when you were a kid, the way that you were bullied in school, like all of these things. It's like we think that we're so detached from all of the things that has happened to us in our life, but that's not true. We carry it within our bodies. These little t traumas, which mean like, smaller things, not this massive, not huge, scary trauma, big T trauma, but like, your friend in high school telling you that you shouldn't talk the way that you do because you sound silly, or that you sound so awkward when you're public speaking, or just these little things that like we hold on to our life, and it dictates how we show up in the world. And so it's not about just getting rid of it. It's just about being able to be more aware of it and more conscious of it and hear it when it comes up, so that we can see it for what it is and let it go and rewire and choose what we want to have differently. Like, choose the different thoughts that we want to create the same way that we choose the clothes that we wear. Every morning, wake up and choose your thoughts the way that you choose your clothes. Maybe you want to wear a baseball cap. Maybe you want to wear a dress. Maybe I want to think about bliss and prosperity and abundance and joy. I think something that's so, so life-changing is like when you first wake up in the morning, like, don't attach thought to the emotion, but just ask yourself, like, what does joy feel like? How long can I just sit and feel the emotion of joy? What does it feel like in my body? How does it make me feel in my heart? You know, it's not easy to remind ourselves because we live on a program and we go through the motions of the day, and we do have to be intentional about like setting time to feel these things and to think these things. But when we're able to initiate our day by thinking these feelings, and for me, movement is everything. Like, I think that when I first wake up, I do feel really sticky, and so getting out of the house and moving and putting music in or my affirmations in, that's huge. But whatever your own rituals or practices are, you have to be intentional about it and aware, and invite every part of you to have a tea with you. Like, I love thinking about it like that, where every single morning, not every single morning, you know, throughout the day, whenever, just have moments where you invite every part of you to the table to drink tea and let them all be heard. The brave you, the shy you, the scary you, the anxious you, the courageous you, the powerful you, those are all different parts of yourself. And they all can come together to be this whole beautiful, powerful person that's here to do big fucking things in the world, you know? And do not let these programs and these negative biases and these negative thoughts dictate and rule your life and take you under, because they will. They can and they will if you don't interrupt it. And also, another analogy that I will leave you guys on is thinking about your energy like a flashlight. You know, you can direct your energy like a flashlight to where you want to go, what you want to do, and how you want to feel. And the more energy you put on that, the more it expands, the more it'll grow, the more it'll unravel into your own reality. The more that you're able to focus on what you want rather than the fear of not having it, it will begin to magnetize. So, yeah. Anyways, I love you guys so much. I think I'll stop myself now. I can tell it's getting a little long. It's been such a great time back with you guys, chatting here in the meadow. Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to leave a review. It means the world. And please keep reaching out to me on Instagram. It means everything to me. Everyone who's been reaching out the last couple months, it is just, oh my God, I listen to the voice messages over and over again. Like, I have a little folder of screenshots of sweet messages that people send me. It really means everything to me. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, it genuinely just, it's scary online sometimes, and just having community and seeing the impact and the reach that this meadow, the world of the meadow, makes is just everything to me. And so thank you. If you haven't yet, send a little message, say hi if you're feeling called to, don't feel scared. And yeah, a lot of exciting things coming to the meadow very soon. Unlock Your Dream Reality is launching again very soon, a new updated version, new website, new portal, all of it. It's going to be so fun. So if you haven't yet, join the waitlist below. In the meantime, I have a lot of free offerings always available. My magnetic morning ritual is always going to be available, as well as my new Path to Purpose workbook that you can get in the show notes below. Yeah, I love you guys. I love you guys so much. Yeah, I can't wait to see what this next year has in store for us. Sending you so much love, and we'll talk soon. Bye.